Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really digging into a true modern mystery. It's a missing persons case, one that went cold for more than 10 years. Seemed impossible to solve.
Right. And the fascinating part is how it was cracked. Not, the usual police work, finding a lucky break.
No, this one was blown wide open by a really unlikely source, an online community. Basically, armchair detectives.
It's an amazing story, actually. We've been looking at excerpts from an article covering the details. They call it the Coded Canary case now.
Coded Canary, okay.
And it really shows how this digital world we live in can breathe new life into these old, almost forgotten mysteries.
Absolutely. So our mission for you today is to unpack this puzzle, the disappearance of Arthur Finch. Some people called him the Birdman of Bennington.
That's right.
We want to understand how these incredibly surprising clues that were hiding in plain sight, how they combined with just this massive collective effort online to finally bring the truth out.
And to get that, you really have to start with Arthur Finch himself. Who was this guy?
Okay, tell us.
Well, he was pretty reclusive, lived out in rural Vermont, and he was deeply passionate about two main things. Birds. He was an ornithologist.
Oh, yeah, bird expert.
Yeah. And codes, secret codes. He was an amateur cryptographer, fascinated by making and breaking ciphers.
So birds and codes, interesting mix. And then in the fall of 2009, he just vanished.
Just vanished. From his cabin, way up in the Green Mountains. Gone.
What did they find there? What was left behind?
Well, that's what was so puzzling. His prized canaries, the birds he'd won awards for, they were still there, in their cages.
Still alive.
Yes. And there was a meal half eaten on his table. And notebooks, stacks of them.
Notebooks full of what? Bird calls.
Exactly. Meticulously detailed transcripts of bird calls, right alongside these really complex personal codes he'd developed.
And the police at the time?
They looked at them, but,
Yeah.
well, frankly, they dismissed them. Thought it was just the nonsensical ramblings of, an eccentric old guy.
So no leads there, according to them.
Yep. And with nothing else pointing anywhere, the case just went cold. For a decade, no answer.
Until something changed. A different kind of investigation started out.
That's right. It started with a podcast, actually, called the Ciphered Aviary.
The Ciphered Aviary, okay? Hosted by
Dr. Eleanor Vance. She's a linguistics professor, really dedicated, and her approach was totally different.
How so?
She didn't just, rehash the old stale case files. She managed to get access to Finch's actual notebooks.
Wow.
And then she undertook this huge task, painstakingly digitizing them, page by page.
All those codes and bird calls.
Everything. And then she did something quite bold.
Which was?
She put them online, made the digitized notebooks publicly available, and she basically put out a call to her listeners, anyone interested in codes or birds or just mysteries, inviting them to help decode it all.
So crowdsourcing the mystery.
Exactly. Dr. Vance had this strong feeling, this intuition that these weren't just random notes. She believed Finch was trying to tell a story, hide some kind of narrative in there.
And did people respond?
Oh, absolutely. The response was incredible. This online community sprang up almost overnight. They started calling themselves the Aviary Investigators.
The Aviary Investigators. I like it.
And what was so fascinating was just how diverse this group was. You had amateur cryptographers who just loved cracking puzzles.
Right.
Bird enthusiasts who might actually understand the significance of certain calls or timings.
Local historians from Vermont who knew the area, the legends.
Precisely. They pooled all this incredibly different knowledge.
Must have been quite the online scene.
It really was. Forums buzzing constantly, Discord chats going nonstop with theories, debates. People were spending hours cross-referencing Finch's notes with, historical bird sightings, migration patterns, even old weather data for the region.
Trying to find any kind of pattern or connection.
Any connection at all. It was a perfect example of collaborative effort, how bringing all these different perspectives together can unlock things that, maybe one single expert would just completely miss.
And did it work? Did this collective effort lead somewhere?
It absolutely did. It led to the critical breakthrough, and it came from someone using the nickname Bitbird.
Bitbird. Who was that?
Turns out, Bitbird was a 19-year-old computer science student. From Ohio, actually.
A student? How did they stumble onto the key? Were they working on the codes?
Well, yes and no. Bitbird was one of these aviary investigators poring over all the material Dr. Vance had put online. But they started thinking a bit differently.
Yeah.
They had this theory. Maybe Finch wasn't only using written codes in his notebooks. Maybe he was using something called steganography.
Steganography. That's hiding messages inside other things, right? Like images.
Exactly. Hiding data within a seemingly normal file, like a photo. It's a pretty sophisticated idea.
So not just codes, but hidden messages inside pictures.
Right.
That's next level.
It really is. So Bitbird decided to test this theory. They were working on some custom software for a college assignment, actually, and decided to run it on a specific photo. It was a picture of Finch's prize-winning canary, Goldie, from his old website.
On the canary photo, what did they find?
Well, that was it. That was the key. Embedded in the yellow feathers of the canary image, almost invisible to the naked eye, was this faint string of letters and symbols.
No way. What did it say?
The string was 44.2590 degrees N 72.6981 degrees dubbits. Then a space, underscore, Silas, underscore, return.
Wow. Okay. Coordinates, Silas, return. What did that mean to the group?
Well, as soon as Bitbird posted that string on the main forum, things just exploded. Everyone jumped on it.
The numbers first, I assume.
Right. Those are clearly latitude and longitude, geographical coordinates. People plotted them on a map immediately.
And they pointed where?
To this remote, abandoned granite quarry, about 30 miles or so from Finch's cabin, a place that had never come up in the original police investigation.
Completely new location. And Silas, did that mean anything?
It did. That immediately clicked with the local Vermont historians and the Aviary Investigators group.
How so?
Silas matched this old local legend about a hermit prospector generations ago named Silas who supposedly hoarded valuables or maybe secrets somewhere in that exact quarry.
A local legend connected to the coordinates found in a digital photo. That's incredible.
It really tied things together. The digital find, the physical location, the local folklore. It felt significant.
Okay, so coordinates, a legend. But what about return? That part still sounds a bit mysterious.
It was ambiguous at first, yeah. Nobody was immediately sure what return meant, but the coordinates were precise. The Silas connection was strong. It was too compelling to just ignore.
So Dr. Vance took this to the police.
She did. She contacted the Vermont State Police right away, laid out the coordinates, the Silas connection, summarized all the research the online community had done to get there.
How did the authorities react this time? Evidence found by strangers analyzing a canary picture online.
Well, understandably, there was some skepticism at first. I mean, this is not exactly standard procedure for cracking a cold case, right? At all. Relying on findings from an online forum, pulled from steganography in a photo, it was pretty far out there. They were hesitant, to commit resources based just on that.
But it didn't end there, obviously. Something must have pushed them.
It didn't end there. What happened was Bitbird shared their discovery more widely online. A tweet about finding potential evidence hidden in a canary photo? Well, it kind of went viral.
Public attention.
Exactly. Significant public attention, and that put pressure on the authorities. So the Vermont State Police, revisiting the whole Finch case, decided they had to conduct a thorough search of that quarry.
Did they go alone? Or did they involve the people who found the clue?
That's another interesting part. They didn't go alone. This was back in November of 2024. They brought in a volunteer geological survey team.
Makes sense for a quarry.
And crucially, they got guidance from some of the actual aviary investigators, people who, through their research, knew the quarry's layout from old maps and historical records.
So the online detectives helped guide the real-world search.
They did, and they searched the old Silas Quarry mine shaft, focusing on that specific coordinate area.
And there, hidden in a collapsed section, right where the coordinates pointed.
They found it, a weatherproof strongbox.
The strongbox. And Finch.
Tragically, yes. Nearby, they found Arthur Finch's remains.
Oh, wow. After all that time, what was in the strongbox?
His final journal. Written clearly. No codes this time, just detailing everything.
Finally, the full story. What did it say?
It laid everything bare. Finch hadn't just wandered off or had an accident. He'd been deliberately encoding his findings because he was in danger.
Danger from what?
He'd been documenting the activities of an illegal mineral mining operation run by some kind of shadow company operating near his cabin, and they were harassing him.
So the codes, the steganography, and the photo, that was his insurance policy.
It was his failsafe, a way to make sure his critical observations wouldn't just disappear or be dismissed if something happened to him. He hoped someone, someday, might find it and piece it all together.
Did the journal say what happened?
His very last entry described a direct confrontation with people from this operation. He wrote about being afraid for his life.
Did he name names? or implicate anyone specific.
He did. He mentioned surprising connections between this illegal operation and some apparently legitimate local businesses. It hinted at a much deeper network involved.
So the journal wasn't just a diary, it was evidence.
Direct evidence of foul play, it clearly indicated homicide.
And based on this, the discovery driven entirely by the online community.
Yes. Based entirely on the work of the Aviary Investigators and the discovery of that journal, the Vermont State Police officially reopened Arthur Finch's disappearance as a homicide investigation.
Have there been results from that?
There have. As of the latest update, 2 arrests have been made. People connected both to Finch's death and to the illegal mining operation, and the investigation is still ongoing, looking into others potentially involved.
Just incredible. The decoded Canary case, as they call it now. It's really an extraordinary story for our times.
It really is. It's such a powerful testament to collaborative investigation in the digital age. How a dedicated community.
With all these different skills.
Exactly. Coding, cryptography, bird knowledge, local history, just plain curiosity. Bringing all that together, they succeeded where, traditional methods had completely stalled. They didn't just look at the old info. They applied completely new ways of seeing it.
It really makes you think. Maybe the most complex puzzles aren't waiting for one lone genius detective anymore.
Maybe they're waiting for many people, each holding a small piece, working together. And it's genuinely starting to change how law enforcement thinks about the potential of, public digital collaboration in these kinds of tough cases.
So for you listening, the takeaway here seems pretty clear.
Yeah, I think so. Crucial information isn't always obvious. It can be hidden in plain sight, maybe in the most unexpected digital corners, like inside a photo of a bird.
And combining knowledge from totally different areas, coding, ornithology, history, like in this case, that combination can unlock insights that maybe nobody saw before. So quite a journey we've taken you on. From a cold case, a decade-old disappearance.
Through this incredible digital deep dive by a podcast community.
To a hidden quarry, revealed by a tiny clue in a canary's feathers.
And finally, uncovering a truth much, much darker than just a simple vanishing act.
It really makes you pause and wonder, doesn't it?
It does. Considering how this coded canary case unfolded, what other important truths might be out there right now, encoded or hidden away in some unexpected digital format, just waiting for someone with the right perspective or the right tool and just the persistence to finally find them.